The next topic of discussion in the continuum of connective tissue diseases, which is inflammatory dermatosis from the Rook's textbook of dermatology, is chapter number 52, dermatomyositis. For understanding of dermatomyositis, it is important to understand the concept of idiopathic inflammatory myopathies. Idiopathic inflammatory myopathies basically involve two diseases that are dermatomyositis and polymyositis. For both of these conditions are included in this idiopathic inflammatory myopathies. For this idiopathic inflammatory myopathies, there is a criteria which is Bohan and Peter classification criteria, which classify dermatomyositis and polymyositis into different categories. First of all, for the dermatomyositis, derma means skin and myositis means muscle. So it has the skin finding and as well as muscle finding. So skin finding or rash of the dermatomyositis is must criteria in the dermatomyositis. All the four criteria remaining are for muscle involvement, which is forming either dermatomyositis or the polymyositis. One is the involvement of the muscle in the form of muscle weakness, then is the raised muscle enzyme, then EMG abnormality pattern of the myositis, and then is the biopsy. These four criteria, if all of the four criteria are present, this is definitive polymyositis. If three of the four criteria are present, this is probable polymyositis, or two of the criteria is forming possible polymyositis. But in the case of dermatomyositis, criteria 5, which is rash, it is a must criteria, so we just minus one criteria in each category. The three any three of the four is definitive, any two of the four is probable, or any one of the four is possible. So this is the criteria for the dermatomyositis and polymyositis. The drawback of this criteria is that it failed to distinguish the polymyositis from the inclusion body myositis and do not acknowledge the amyopathic dermatomyositis. So to overcome this deficiency, Grigg's criteria was separately proposed for the inclusion body myositis. So this is the just overview of inflammatory idiopathic myopathies. Then is the term amyopathic dermatomyositis. Amyopathy, A mean absence, myopathy mean myopathy. So these patients will have clinically or biopsy proven manifestation of classical dermatomyositis in the absence of any muscle involvement. There will be no muscle weakness, there will be no muscle enzyme activity, or there will be no biopsy findings of any muscle weakness. Just classical features of the dermatomyositis occurring for the last 6 months or longer with no evidence of proximal muscle weakness. So, for the criteria to be fulfilled as the amyopathic dermatomyositis, you have to investigate the patient fully, including the muscle enzymes, including the muscle biopsy. If the patient is not investigated to fulfill the criteria of amyopathic in dermatomyositis, and you are just seeing the patient clinically, then you will term the patient according to hypomyopathic dermatomyositis. Hypo means the patient is having clinically normal patient, muscle is absolutely normal, and the investigations are positive or abnormal. This is hypomyopathic dermatomyositis. For exclusion criteria of amyopathic dermatomyositis, there are 2 points which to be remembered. First point is that patient should not be on any treatment of the systemic immunosuppressive therapy for the last 2 consecutive months or the first 6 months of diagnosis of the skin onset disease. And the second is that the drug known to be capable of producing dermatomyositis like skin changes like hydroxyurea, patient should not use any of these two things. This hypomyopathic and amyopathic dermatomyositis is combined termed as clinically amyopathic dermatomyositis. Without investigation, this is CADM, clinically amyopathic dermatomyositis. This is an important point for the MCQ theory point of view or the Viva point of view, that what are the main causes of death in idiopathic inflammatory myopathies. The most important cause of death is cardiac, then the next important cause of death is malignancy, and then is respiratory. So in order of increased frequency is cardiac, then is malignancy, and then is your respiratory. Next comes the age of onset. The peak age of incidence of the dermatomyositis is 50 to 60 years of age, and it is twice more common in the females as compared to males. More common in the African American men. There are some disease associated with the dermatomyositis in adult onset and in juvenile. Overall, the incidence of malignancy is raised in dermatomyositis, and the risk of malignancy is increased with increasing age, with a severe skin disease with necrosis, with dysphagia, diaphragmatic weakness, antibodies to the anti-transcription intermediary factor, which is anti-TIF1 and NXP2. But one different point is that there is lack of extracellular systemic involvement, which is ILD. Lack of ILD is associated with the increased risk of malignancy. So somehow ILD is a good sign, not for the patient, but with increased risk of malignancy. Lack of ILD is at increased risk of malignancy, while presence of ILD is not. For the antibodies, easy way to remember is T for tumor, T for TFF1, N for neoplasia, N for NXP2. So these two antibodies are associated with malignancy in the dermatomyositis. The one important point is that in the case of juvenile dermatomyositis, it is not associated with increased risk of malignancy as in the case with adult onset dermatomyositis. But juvenile dermatomyositis patients are increased risk of calcinosis. Okay, we are talking about the increased risk of malignancy. So which malignancies are associated with dermatomyositis? The most important is adenocarcinoma, and the other solid organ malignancies is breast, ovary, and lung cancer. But in the case of Far East populations, increased risk of nasopharyngeal cancer more in dermatomyositis. Then comes the pathophysiology of the dermato and polymyositis. The important point for the pathophysiology to remember, just classify it into the capillary related or vessel related and muscle related, then inflammation. So for the capillaries, there is increased deposit of the membrane attack complexes, MAC. MAC is deposited, which is C5 to C9, into the capillaries. Then due to this deposit, there will be capillary dropout, and the remaining capillaries will increase in the caliber to compensate for the blood supply. But obviously these due to this dropout, there will be lack of the blood supply and there will be hypoxic stress, and the muscles will the muscle bundle will start to atrophy. So there is a perifascicular atrophy of the muscle fibers. These all changes are occurring in the level of capillaries. At the level of muscles, there is increased level of HLA1. This HLA class 1 is not usually present in the muscle. It is usually absent on the muscle fiber, but in the case of dermatomyositis, it is upregulated. It is so upregulated even in the unaffected muscles without inflammation or infiltration. So perivascular muscle will atrophy. Third important thing was inflammation. So inflammation in the case of dermatomyositis is basically CD4 positive T cells. This is important to remember because in the case of polymyositis, these are CD8 positive T cells. This is CD8 positive T cells invading the muscles in the case of polymyositis. Okay. Next important concept is about the myositis specific antibodies and myositis associated antibodies. Myositis specific antibodies, some antibodies that are related to the disease activity or the disease complication. For dermatomyositis, you can change the name of dermatomyositis to dermatomyositis. Just to remember the antibodies, which is MI2. MI2 antibody are specific for the dermatomyositis. And for the polymyositis, just change the name to Jolie myositis. So Jo1 antibodies are present in the form of polymyositis. So this is important. For muscle specific antibody or dermatomyosite specific antibody, one is the MI2 antibody, which is evident in its name also. Then remember the complications of the dermatomyositis. First was malignancy, so T for tumor, T for malignancy. So TIF1 is specific, MDA5 is associated with the vasculopathic ulcer, so this is associated with the specific antibody. And another important complication of dermatomyositis is dysphagia. So sumo, by eating so much, there is obesity and sumo configuration. So sumo antibodies are also associated with the specific antibodies. Then all the remaining antibodies which are forming with the overlap syndrome in the form of Rho antibody, UNRNP in the form of mixed connective tissue, or PMSCL COO antibody, they are myositis associated antibodies. So this is a concept of myositis specific antibody, which is MDA5, TIF1 gamma, MI2 and SUMO, and myositis associated antibodies, which is Rho antibody, UNRNP, PMSCL and COO. Third concept is that some antibodies are associated with disease activity. So presence of those activity, those antibodies are indicating the worse prognosis or the poor disease progression. These antibodies are MDA5 and Jo1 antibody. These two antibodies have increased disease activity. Rest of this is not very important, you can skip this as well. Then is the pathophysiology. Pathophysiology is just important. One thing to remember is that dermatomyositis has lichenoid histopathology. When there will be a lichenoid histopathology, there is going to be a vacuolar degeneration. There is going to be civet body production. There is going to be sparse perivascular lymphocytic infiltration, upper dermal edema in the form of mucin deposit, and basement membrane thickening. These are very specific lichenoid changes. But for the acute dermatomyositis, changes can be in the form of subacute LE. For poikilodermatous dermatomyositis, there is going to be poikilodermatous changes in the form of dermal atrophy, dilatation of the superficial vessels, and melanin incontinence. For the Gottron papule, there is a hyperkeratosis. So on biopsy, you will find hyperkeratosis, acanthosis, and papillomatosis. And there is some unusual biopsy findings which are related to sequelae or complications of the dermatomyositis in the form of subepidermal blistering, dystrophic calcification, and lobular paniculitis. In muscle biopsies, it is same for the pathophysiological changes. You have to remember the infiltrate in the form of CD B cells or CD4 T cells. In a perivascular perifascicular distribution, there will be capillary dropout. There will be a deposit of C5b to 9 in the capillary walls, perifascicular atrophy. These are all things we have discussed earlier. One new thing is that there will be tubulo-reticular inclusions that are found in the electron microscopy with the capillary endothelial cells. This is an additional new thing. HLA class 1 is upregulated, already described. For the clinical features of dermatomyositis, the first important thing is that most of the patient presents with the dermatosis in 50% of the cases in dermatomyositis. So skin findings are very important. Skin findings are in the form of facial rash. The facial rash occurs mostly on the hands, extensive surfaces of the limbs, and upper torso. It can be itchy, it can be sore, and there is photosensitivity along with the skin rash. These are the important findings. Then another important finding is that we have already discussed amyopathic dermatomyositis. Amyopathic dermatomyositis is also termed as dermatomyositis sign myositis. Sign mean absence. So there will be dermatomyositis clinically and biopsy proven, but there will be no myositis in these patients. But with the classical dermatomyositis, there will be muscle involvement, and muscle involvement can in the form of respiratory involvement. So there will be respiratory failure. In some patients, ILD can be developed. In some patients, there will be dysphagia due to esophageal musculature involvement, and this dysphagia is a poor prognosis. As we have discussed earlier, dysphagia is associated with SUMO antibodies. So it's an important thing to remember. Next, muscles can be in the form of swallowing problems, in the tendency to cough, or the food stuck in the throat, or requiring water and several attempts to swallow the bolus of the food. Other clue can be form of bulbar muscle involvement in the form of weight loss, in the form of lower respiratory tract infection or nasal voice. Raynaud phenomena is an important part of dermatomyositis whenever it is associated with the mixed connective tissue disease, because it is an important component or feature of the MCTD. Or Raynaud phenomenon is also seen in anti-synthetase syndrome. We are going to discuss it later on. Whenever we talk about this was the history based questions. So on examination or presentation of the clinical manifestations of dermatomyositis, skin changes are in the form of different signs. One very important pathognomic finding of dermatomyositis is heliotrope rash. Heliotrope rash is seen around the edema of the eyelids and periorbital skin and often reflects activity of the myositis. Face can be grossly swollen, whole of the face can be swollen. It can be present as erythema on the butterfly distribution, in a SIBO psoriasis, in a rosacea like erythema, seborrheic dermatitis like drug induced photosensitivity, or chronic active actinic dermatosis. This was all about the face involvement. In the form of scalp involvement, scalp can be very intensely itchy, pain can be a feature, or there can be telangiectasia or milia formation on the scalp. Then comes the changes of the torso. Torso changes is in the form of upper chest, anterior side, and posterior side. Anterior side, if there is a well demarcated V-shaped erythema, this is called V sign. If there is a semicircular distribution in involvement of the erythema, this is known as Bibb sign. If there is a distribution of erythema in the upper back extending up to the shoulder, like you are carrying a shawl, this is known as shawl sign. Then comes the flagellate erythema. Flagellate erythema is like a whipping or scorching like marks that is crisscross pattern on the trunk. So it's flagellate pattern. Then comes the folliculotropic pattern of erythema, just erythema follicular distribution. Or if there is same hyperkeratotic follicular papules forming on the dermatomyositis, this is known as Wong type dermatomyositis. And another changes is poikiloderma. Poikiloderma is a triad of telangiectatic erythema, epidermal atrophy, and dyspigmentation. In the darker skin, the atrophy and hypopigmentation of poikiloderma will be apparent, but telangiectasia is difficult to discern due to color of that patient. Then involvement of the hands and feet. Hand and feet can be in the form of Gottran papule or Gottran sign. Gottran papule are hyperkeratotic papules that are present on the extensor surfaces, like not whole of the extensor surfaces, basically on the interphalangeal or metacarpophalangeal joints of the fingers. If same papules are present on the inner aspect, this is known as inverse Gottran's papules on the palmar surfaces of the fingers creases. And an important point is that there is red linear streaks over the extensor surfaces of the hands may accompany Gottran papule. Here you can appreciate the linear streaks of dermatomyositis like this. Linear streak on the dorsal surfaces of the dermatomyositis in the tendon, extensor tendons. Okay, the next important point is anti-synthetase antibodies. Anti-synthetase antibodies are forming a part of the mechanics hand. Mechanics hand changes are present as the prominent radial border of the index finger in the form of hyperkeratotic inflammation or fissuring. You can remember these antibodies as Joe mechanic. Joe is the name of the mechanic, and mechanics hand has Joe 1 antibodies. Your MDF5 is associated with vasculopathic ulcers. Dermoscopic examination show enlarged capillary loops, fallout capillaries, budding of the capillaries, and capillaries hemorrhage. Then is an important sign, Holster sign. Holster sign is like a pistol that you put the pistol into the lateral pocket or thigh. This is Holster. Holster sign is a buttocks are involved in dermatomyositis. Erythema over the hips and lateral thighs has been termed as Holster sign. Then important complication of dermatomyositis is paniculitis and calcinosis. Paniculitis and calcinosis, the difference of the paniculitis of the LE, lupus paniculitis, and dermatomyositis paniculitis is that the face is rarely involved in the dermatomyositis. And the antibodies involved with the calcinosis is juvenile dermatomyositis is MDA5 and NXP2. Then comes the muscle signs. Muscle signs can be in the form of proximal myopathy. There will be history of problem with climbing stairs, getting out of the chair, and performing the task and requiring lifting their hands above the head or brushing hair. The patient can give all the history of this proximal muscle weakness. Then you can do check the manual muscle testing in the form of brief screening for the muscle involvement, hip flexion, shoulder abduction, or the elbow extension. You can use different tools for the muscle assessment like MMT8, MMT26, or at the end for the research purpose or just for the viva question, this is functional index 3 scale that can be used to assess the muscle stamina for the patients of the dermatomyositis. Muscles can be in the form of respiratory involvement forming the ILD or the esophageal involvement forming the dysphagia. Or ILD has different patterns in the dermatomyositis. First is UIP, then is DAD, then is COP. UIP is usual interstitial pneumonitis. DAD is the diffuse alveolar damage. COP is basically cryptogenic organizing pneumonia. Among these three, COP and DAD has present acutely. COP has a very good prognosis. You can remember is that COP can cope with any condition. So COP has good prognosis. DAD has very severe prognosis or poor prognosis. Then other features of the poor prognosis is that if the patient has TLC of less than 45, patient has excessive neutrophils on the bronchoalveolar lavage, or the histology showed DAD. These all three features are poor prognostic. Cardiac failure due to myositis respond to the immunosuppression. Then comes the antisynthetase syndrome. Antisynthetase syndrome, as already described, is associated with anti-Jo1 antibody and many other antibodies, but important was the Jo1. Then mechanics hand is associated with MDA5 antibody. And juvenile dermatomyositis, there is no increased risk of malignancy, rather there is increased risk of calcinosis in the form of juvenile dermatomyositis. There can be acquired lipodystrophy, there can be association of acanthosis nigricans or the type 2 diabetes mellitus, or in the form of focal disease, there may be associated panniculitis. As we have already discussed on histological changes, lobular panniculitis can be seen. These are some changes associated with the MDA5 antibodies. Whenever patient has MDA5 antibodies, there is increased risk of panniculitis, there is increased risk of rapidly progressive ILD, there is increased risk of CADM, which is clinically hemopathic dermatomyositis, and mechanics hand. Investigations are more or less same for the dermatomyositis, including all the antibodies we have already discussed. Important table is this one to memorize. For the VIVA point of view, that dermatomyositis MI2 is very specific antibody for the dermatomyositis. It shows mild muscle involvement, typical cutaneous feature, and severe skin disease. Then TIF gamma is associated with T4 tumor, T4 malignancy. So TIF is associated with malignancy. It is associated with CADM. Then comes MDA5. MDA5 was associated with vasculopathic ulcer or panniculitis, ILD, and CADM. NXP2 was associated with calcinosis. Then SAI is same for SUMO. SUMO was associated with dysphagia. This one, dysphagia. And then remainings are the overlapping antibodies in the antisynthetase syndrome. Among these, Jo1 is most common. For the treatment of dermatomyositis, the first line treatment is steroids. Steroids are if the patient is presenting with severe disease and you need a very high dose of steroid, then steroids can be given in the form of pulse IV steroid, 500 to 1000 gram per day, 3 consecutive days, or then shift the patient to oral steroid 0.5 to 1 milligram per kg per day. Then patient along with that steroids add DMARDs for the steroid sparing effect in the form of MAC. MAC is for methotrexate. If the patient has ILD, metho cannot be given. Then azathioprine is the option, cyclosporine is option. If patient develops dysphagia, IVIG is a good option. Alternative regime is to start with the pulse methylprednisolone followed by the IV cyclopulse. So this is basically Dexa or methylprednisolone with cyclopulse. Then plus oral steroid 1 milligram per kg per day. DMARDs are same, MAC, methotrexate, azathioprine, and cyclosporin. And then consider IVIG for dysphagia. Second line treatment is mycophenolate mofetil, MMF, and oral tacrolimus. And third line, if limited disease is present, then patient can be treated with topical alone, topical corticosteroid, topical tacrolimus, plus hydroxychloroquine. And third line, for any refractory connective tissue disease, same is true for dermatomyositis. Refractory disease is treated with rituximab or novel JAK inhibitor. So this is all about dermatomyositis.